Okay, back again, and to recap from last video, um, my attempt to go and, well, not attempt, I've gone to the job gym and taken care of all that, and even gotten that request in to talk to staff and whatnot for um, the help in building a tutorial on how to go through the job finding process. I'm just waiting to hear back, and that was Friday. I'm confident that they're not going to be calling on the weekend, and or the week beginning. Happy Sunday, and welcome to a new week. So my trip out to go do all of that, and I've got my resumes printed off. I had a cover letter and resume all typed up from before last time I was in there, and so really I just had to kind of type stuff off and kind of talk with them about a lot of the stuff and the different programs they have there. So on top of the job finding, I will also be looking into what they have to offer for pardon services so that people can find a job easier if they have that clean record, right? That it's not that kind of thing that employers might look at and be like, oh, well, what was it? And they want to know circumstances. And it's really like, if it's not a serious crime, then pardons can be sought and resolved. And so yeah, if you need pardons, then you definitely look into that because those services are out there, and given however long it was, or what it was, what your record really looks like is really kind of what dictates that. So if you don't know, find out. But after all of that, I was on my way to the Hope Center. Great place. They've got the food bank, and it's kind of like a Christian charity donation, run social outlet for different services. They've got the contacts, and like they can direct you to where to go for various needs. Seeing as how so many of the services are split up. And on the way there, I met someone that I've known from around here, and in Welland, Ontario, right here in Niagara region, where something has just hit the news right after I found all this out too. By the end of the day, I hadn't found what he was talking about. He was saying that there were like a lot of homeless people underneath the bridges down along the canal, and I have seen various camps set up, and along the river stretch, and various locations where people are just trying to stay warm and stuff, because right now in Niagara region we've got like quite a few people that are in need of homes, and with that in mind, our region's wards from the various districts in Niagara region have been attempting to resolve this with kind of a mixed hums and haws of what to do. And if these videos on this matter start to carry on too long, then I'm sorry, but there's really kind of a lot to put into frame for what that means of why are people homeless. A lot of people, you know, take those like obvious factors, and they tend to apply it to everyone that's affected here. But we do have like over 140 we get like 144 children, and there's like over 600 people altogether in the Niagara region that are homeless, and all of our shelters and provisions for housing people are stocked to the brim. There's no capacity left for beds, and the funding, that kind of leads down a rabbit hole of what happened to it and who is now accountable. As instead of building subsidized housing and like that kind of assisted rent, as some might call it, or like a geared to income rental, but basically affordable housing, right? Um, and instead of doing that, and I noticed last year, living in Welland here and seeing where they were, like this is where the city, this is the city where a large sum of that money, I think it was $3 million, was given to build and develop housing programs and like places for people to go. And so far we've got like a project for 20 households near the Hope Center that's still under construction, and it hasn't really been gotten back to. And somehow the probably the more prime real estate between like all the amenities for for people trying to get ahead again, and like find a good job or a career, or even just good shopping area, and next to the social services department, which is what they need when they're in that situation. But there's like the adult learning center, and the public school right across there, and it's right. It would have been right next to the health arts building, and instead of the city having I insisted that these projects had gone ahead, somehow like the the developed area in between that area, which had been just left for up until just recently, has been turned into this condo development of housing, um, still zoned for the same residential, but each unit costs $500,000 to purchase. And I know that nobody that in the situation that needs housing in the area, because there are people in this area, and they're just that's definitely not in their budget, but it's right where they would want to be. Anyway, I can see my video is getting long, so if this gets cut short, I'll pick up somewhere along there. But I do have links for the information on what the councils are saying and stuff, and I will get to that, and I will try to make this a non-inflammatory political thing at all, because a lot of these people, they want to help. It's a matter of coming together and deciding how to make that happen. And I hope to help connect the people at the bottom in the community. At the bottom, pardon for me putting the community at the bottom. That doesn't really work out always. And a lot of people in the community are pulling together even, and you see people that are handing out money in the street if someone's homeless, or if they're just standing around and they've got their hand out, And also, like, there's houses in the community that have joined that initiative to provide housing, and like some of the housing beds are in homes. And so I'll talk to a bunch of those people and rally that group for these discussions, because they've even approached me, a couple of them that said that they'd be willing to and interested in starting. What we need is some sort of supervisoral area to you know regulate this living space, rather than just like the problem with the tennis courts of just um, you know setting them in there, and whatever happens. Let's pray for the best. Like, um, I've lived in the shelters in London, and it's fairly well regulated, and like, there's a bit of structure, so that does help those that are trying to get off of the system or get back into a proper housing, depending on whatever their circumstances are. Like, sometimes people just get laid off and they're stuck for too long, and especially if you're stuck in with one single job for so long, right? It's hard to break out of that trade and find anything else. And some places, like, they just won't do business with you if you're only doing some one thing. And I know it's hard. And I'll get back to the process of job finding for anyone that still needs to do that, because I want to get off the system before I have to resubmit all my information to the US and have them force me to go through this process anyway. So, because if I don't, then that will eliminate me from my qualifications, because I still haven't found a doctor, which I've been an orphan patient for far too long, and it's difficult to find a doctor that can take someone that's had similar circumstances with me as me, and like, there's just not enough of the pre-existing old medical documentation for proper evaluation. So it would be a very long process to really get into it all and start my stuff from scratch. But that's another story altogether. Right now is homelessness and getting a job. Hopefully I can figure out some kind of PayPal account or GoFundMe, something or other. I don't want to do the Patreon because that puts it off of public media, which is where this kind of real news and honest first-hand accounting, which is what I'm going to provide more of. Besides myself, I'm going to get out there and find people that want to help tell their stories, because it's not just the homeless we want to hear from. I want to hear from homeowners, because they get pinched a lot too. And so we're all in this together, and I'll stop here because I can see that I'm getting really close to the 15 here. But in the next video, maybe I might go over some of the details, and maybe explain what I was kind of talking with some other people about for formulating the initiative in the community to join in with the politicians and the organizations that are trying really hard. All right, till next video.